The settlers laughed the first time they saw it. They laughed harder the second time. By autumn, nearly everyone in Dry Creek had a nickname for Elias Morgan's strange new home. The dirt dome, the mud hut, the mole house. Nobody believed a grown man would willingly live under a hill. Elias didn't care, because while everyone else was building against nature, he was building into it. At 38 years old, Elias had spent most of his life learning difficult lessons about winter. The mountains taught them brutally. Cabins froze. Firewood disappeared. Wind found every crack. Snow buried every doorway. For years he watched settlers fight the same battle every season. Bigger stoves, more firewood, thicker walls. Yet winter always seemed to win eventually. The idea that changed everything arrived unexpectedly. 5 years earlier, Elias became trapped during a snowstorm while surveying land for a rancher. Unable to reach town, he took shelter in an abandoned badger den enlarged by erosion. The space wasn't comfortable. It wasn't beautiful, but one detail fascinated him. Outside temperatures dropped below zero. Inside the earth, the temperature barely changed. The ground itself acted like insulation. That memory never left him. Years later, after losing his small farm during a drought, Elias found himself starting over with almost nothing. Most men would have built another log cabin. Elias chose something different. He purchased a neglected hillside on the edge of Dry Creek. The property cost almost nothing. Rocky soil, poor farmland, little timber. Most people considered it useless. Elias saw opportunity. For weeks, he studied the slope, measured drainage, observed sunlight, tracked water runoff after storms. Then construction began. The settlers immediately became curious. At first they expected a foundation, then walls, then a roof. Instead they watched Elias dig, and dig, and dig. A shallow bowl appeared in the hillside, then wooden forms, then curved support beams. By midsummer, confusion spread throughout town. One afternoon, the blacksmith rode out to investigate. He found Elias standing inside a large circular framework partially buried beneath earth. The structure resembled half a sphere emerging from the hillside. The blacksmith stared for several seconds. Finally he asked, "What exactly is this?" "A house." The blacksmith laughed. "No, it is. You live in houses." Elias pointed around him. "I plan to." The blacksmith looked upward. Most of the structure already sat beneath several feet of packed soil. Grass had begun growing on portions of the roof. This confusion only deepened. "Why bury it?" Elias smiled. "Because the earth already knows how to handle winter." That answer spread through town faster than wildfire. Within days, everyone knew Elias intended to live beneath a hill. The jokes became relentless. Children rolled toy wagons across miniature dirt domes. Farmers asked whether he planned to hibernate. Even the general store owner displayed a small sign reading, "Mole food available here." Elias laughed along with everyone else, then returned to work. The dome slowly took shape. Massive timber ribs formed a circular skeleton. Thick planks covered the frame. Layers of waterproofing protected the exterior. Then several feet of earth covered everything. By early autumn, only the front entrance remained visible. The rest appeared to be part of the hillside itself. Wild grass already covered the roof. From a distance, most travelers never noticed the home. Inside, however, the structure felt remarkable. The curved ceiling created unexpected strength. No corners trapped drafts. No exposed walls faced the weather. Earth surrounded nearly every side. The temperature remained surprisingly stable. Even during warm afternoons, the interior stayed cool. Elias considered that a good sign. If heat struggled to enter, cold would struggle too. His neighbor Margaret visited one afternoon. Unlike most people, she asked genuine questions. Walking inside, she looked around curiously. The dome felt quiet, almost peaceful. Sunlight entered through carefully positioned south-facing windows. Shelves curved naturally along the walls. The circular room felt larger than expected. Margaret touched one of the earth-covered walls. "It's comfortable." Elias smiled. "Wait until January." She laughed softly. "You really think this works?" "I do. Without a giant stove?" Elias nodded. "The earth does most of the work." By October he moved in. Many settlers secretly expected disaster. The first cold nights arrived. Temperatures dropped sharply. Frost covered fields every morning. Yet something unusual happened. The dome remained comfortable. Not warm, not cold. Steady. The surrounding earth resisted sudden temperature changes. A small lantern produced noticeable warmth. Cooking supper warmed the room further. The interior seemed reluctant to lose heat. Elias carefully recorded everything. Morning temperatures, evening temperatures, outside weather, inside conditions. Each day confirmed the same pattern. The earth insulated better than he imagined. Then November arrived. The first major cold front swept across the valley. Temperatures plummeted overnight. Water troughs froze solid. Ponds developed thick ice. Settlers burned firewood continuously. Elias decided to perform an experiment. For one entire day, he lit no fire. None. No stove. No fireplace. Nothing. The next morning, he checked his thermometer. Outside, temperatures had fallen dramatically. Inside, the dome remained astonishingly comfortable. The difference exceeded anything he expected. News spread quickly, mostly because Elias couldn't stop smiling. The blacksmith visited again. This time he brought a thermometer. He wanted proof. Standing outside, he recorded the temperature. Then they stepped inside. His eyebrows rose immediately. That's impossible. Elias handed him a notebook. The blacksmith compared numbers twice. Then a third time. The difference approached 50 degrees. No fire. No stove. Just earth. The blacksmith stared silently around the room. For the first time, he wasn't laughing. He was thinking. Soon more visitors arrived. Teachers. Farmers. Ranchers. Builders. Everyone wanted to understand. Most left confused. Some left impressed. A few quietly admitted Elias might be onto something. Then old Samuel Grayson appeared. At 81 years old, Samuel remembered winters nobody else alive could describe firsthand. He spent nearly an hour examining the dome, studying the hillside, watching the wind, inspecting drainage. Finally, he sat beside Elias outside the entrance. Dark clouds gathered beyond distant peaks. Samuel's expression grew serious. You know what those clouds remind me of? Elias shook his head. The winter of 1868. Silence followed. Even Elias recognized the significance. Every family in the valley knew stories about that winter. Entire homesteads abandoned. Livestock frozen standing up. Snow deeper than wagon roofs. Samuel slowly looked back toward the dirt-covered dome, then nodded. If another winter like that comes. His eyes moved across the earth-covered hillside. People may stop calling this a mole house. The old man stared toward the mountains. Far beyond the horizon, storm clouds continued building. And for the first time all season, Elias wondered if his strange home was about to face the ultimate test. Samuel Grayson had survived the winter of 1868. When he looked worried, people paid attention. 3 days after his warning, the first blizzard arrived. Not a normal storm. A wall of snow. The wind screamed across the valley with such force that entire fences disappeared overnight. Settlers woke to find drifts taller than wagon wheels. Roads vanished. Livestock huddled against barns. Every chimney in Dry Creek poured smoke into the sky. Every chimney except one. Elias Morgan's. The dirt dome sat quietly beneath its blanket of earth. The hillside itself shielded it from the storm. Snow blew harmlessly overhead. Wind rushed around it. The earth absorbed every assault winter delivered. Inside, Elias sat reading beside a lantern. No fire burned. No stove glowed. The interior remained comfortable. Not warm enough for short sleeves. Not cold enough for heavy coats. Just steady. The thermometer on the wall barely moved. The earth surrounding the structure released stored warmth slowly and continuously. Exactly as Elias had hoped. Outside, temperatures plunged far below freezing. Inside, life continued normally. By the third day, rumors began spreading. At first people dismissed them. Then curiosity took over. The blacksmith arrived carrying another thermometer. Snow covered his shoulders. Ice clung to his beard. He stepped inside the dome and immediately stopped. The difference felt impossible. Outside, the cold bit through layers of wool. Inside, the air felt calm and mild. He compared temperatures twice. Then 3 times. Finally, he shook his head. I don't understand it. Elias smiled. The hill is doing most of the work. The blacksmith looked around. No fire. None. You haven't burned a single log? Elias pointed toward the untouched woodpile. The blacksmith stared in disbelief. Word spread faster than ever. People began visiting simply to experience the dome for themselves. Most arrived expecting a trick. None found one. The earth-covered structure simply worked. Then winter became much worse. A second storm followed the first. Then another. By mid-January, Dry Creek faced conditions nobody had seen in decades. Snow-buried buildings. Several roofs collapsed. Families struggled to reach woodsheds. Firewood consumption doubled. Some cabins never seemed to get warm no matter how much wood they burned. Then disaster struck. A fierce windstorm swept through the valley one night. The next morning, several families discovered their chimneys damaged. Others found roof sections torn loose. The Johnson family lost half their cabin roof entirely. That afternoon, they appeared at Elias's door. Exhausted, cold, running out of options. Elias welcomed them immediately. The dome had been designed efficiently. The circular layout provided more usable space than outsiders realized. Soon blankets covered the floor. Extra beds appeared. Children settled near the southern windows. The earth continued maintaining a steady temperature despite the growing crowd. Within days, more neighbors arrived. Then more. The strange home people once mocked became a refuge. Margaret arrived carrying food supplies. The blacksmith brought tools. Others contributed blankets, lanterns, and preserved food. The dome became a community shelter. One evening, while snow hammered the valley outside, several settlers gathered around a table. No fire burned, yet nobody shivered. A young rancher finally asked the question everyone wondered. How can this place stay so warm? Elias looked toward the curved walls. The ground never gets as cold as the air. He placed his hand against the earth-covered interior. The deeper you go, the steadier temperatures become. The rancher nodded slowly. So winter is fighting the hill before it ever reaches us. Exactly. Silence followed. People weren't looking at the structure the same way anymore. For the first time, they understood. Then came the Great Freeze. The event people would remember for generations. Temperatures crashed lower than anyone believed possible. Water buckets froze solid indoors. Livestock died despite shelter. Several cabins became nearly uninhabitable. Families burned through entire woodpiles trying to stay warm. Meanwhile, the dirt dome remained remarkably stable. The thermometer dropped slightly. Nothing more. The earth acted like a giant protective blanket. The settlers sheltering inside could scarcely believe it. One morning, the blacksmith stepped outside. The cold hit like a hammer. His breath instantly crystallized. He hurried back inside, then laughed. Not because anything was funny, because he finally understood how wrong he'd been. For months, he mocked the structure. Now it was the most comfortable building in the valley. The storms continued through February. Yet the dome never failed. The curved roof shed snow naturally. The earth insulation prevented sudden temperature swings. The hillside protected against wind. Everything worked together. Nature wasn't being fought. It was being used. Finally, spring arrived. The snow began melting. Roads reappeared. Cabins emerged from drifts. Dry Creek slowly returned to life. One afternoon, the townspeople gathered outside Elias's home. Children played atop the grassy dome roof. Adults stood nearby smiling. Samuel Grayson stepped forward carrying a wooden plaque. The old man looked healthier than he had all winter. "You remember what I told you?" Elias smiled. "About the winter of 1868? Samuel nodded. "I was wrong." That surprised everyone. The old man rarely admitted mistakes. Elias raised an eyebrow. "How?" Samuel looked toward the earth-covered structure. "I said people would stop calling this a mole house." He handed over the plaque. Carved into the wood were simple words. "The hillside that saved Dry Creek." Laughter spread through the crowd. Warm laughter this time. Not mocking. Grateful. Over the next several years, other settlers began experimenting with earth-sheltered homes. Some built partially into hillsides. Others covered walls with earth berms. Builders traveled from neighboring valleys to study Elias's design. The strange dome that once inspired jokes became a source of ideas. Visitors often asked Elias whether he enjoyed proving everyone wrong. His answer never changed. No. He would glance toward the grassy hill surrounding his home. The earth proved them wrong. Then he'd smile. "All I did was listen." And long after the harsh winter became history, people still remembered the season when a man buried his house beneath a hill and discovered that sometimes the warmest shelter isn't built above the ground at all.